I once met a young man after a talk. He approached me with bright eyes, full of enthusiasm, holding a notebook filled with underlined sentences and exclamation points, and said, "Jim, today was amazing. I feel like I could change the world." I looked at him, smiled, and said, "Good, but I will believe it when I see you again. 3 months from now, not today." You see, motivation is easy to come by. Everyone has felt inspired after reading a book, watching a film, or hearing a speech. But why do only a few keep the promises they make to themselves? Why do most people hold on to their resolve for just a few days before returning to the same old chair, the same old coffee, and the same old procrastination? Because motivation is not enough. It is a spark. It ignites the initial intent, but no one can boil a pot of water with just a spark. You need a steady flame. And to keep that flame burning, you need habits, small, repeated actions done consistently. Whether you feel excited or not, whether it is raining or sunny, whether anyone cheers you on or not, your life does not change just because you feel inspired. It changes when you act and keep acting long enough to become a new person. I once said, "Do not let your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action." Because if every lesson you hear only ends up as a beautifully written note, you are just collecting ideas, not living them. Picture a farmer. He wakes at dawn, sows seeds, waters them, pulls weeds, day after day. He does not need motivation every morning. He has discipline because he knows seeds will not sprout if watered only on Sundays. Seeds need consistency, and so does your life. Success is not an event. It is the result of the habits you choose to maintain. People often ask me, "Jim, how do I keep the fire burning?" I answer, do not try to keep the fire. Keep the habits, because habits will automatically keep the fire alive for you. A person who builds a habit of waking early does not need multiple alarms. A person who writes in a journal daily feels empty without it. A person who acts consistently feels uneasy if they do not move forward. That is success automated through disciplines. But be careful, habits are a double-edged sword. If you repeat procrastination, you are building a life of missed opportunities. If you eat carelessly, you are building a body prone to illness. If you speak negatively, you are building a mind that doubts itself. You do not just have habits, you are the result of your habits. I have seen people with blazing motivation burn out because they lacked a system to sustain it. They do 10 things in one day, then collapse from exhaustion. They set lofty goals, then feel guilty when they fall short, and then they stop. Not because they lack dreams, but because they lack steady rhythm. You can go further than anyone if you persist longer than they do, and you will persist longer. If you simplify your habits, just 30 minutes of reading each morning, just writing down 3 things you learned each day, just choosing one right action and repeating it until it becomes part of you. Do not start with grand declarations. Start with a small commitment and keep it every day. Motivation is an emotion. Habits are a decision. And only decisions repeated create real change. Do not wait to feel ready. Be ready first by acting. Because when you build habits, you are not just building success, you are building the person who can hold on to success when it arrives. I want you to pause for a moment, not to take notes, but to be honest with yourself. How many times have you felt inspired only to let that inspiration fade after a few days? How many times have you made a new plan only to abandon it because you were tired, busy, or felt it was not the right time. Do you see that those moments are not just missed opportunities, but moments that erode the trust you have in yourself? I believe that when you break a promise to others, they may forgive you. But when you break a promise to yourself, you lose self-respect. And self-respect is not easily regained with a positive word. You rebuild it through actions, through right actions. Repeat it until you can look in the mirror and say, I am living as I promised. We live in a world where people seek instant inspiration, a quote that touches the heart, a video that brings tears, an image that sparks a desire to contribute. But do you know what is not flashy yet has lasting power? It is doing the right thing when no one cares, when there is no applause, no audience, no praise, just you and your commitment. That is the true measure of a strong person. Imagine your life as a machine in motion. Each right action is a gear turning smoothly. Each time you skip a habit, agariums, one day, you may not notice a problem. 1 week, you think you can fix it later, but over time, the whole machine veers off course. And when you finally want to correct it, it takes 10 times the effort. That is the silent cost of living without good habits. So, if you are not excited today, it does not matter. Stand up. Do the right thing. Because true value lies not in how you feel, but in who you are becoming. And that person does not need inspiration to keep going. They move because they chose to. If you want a lasting career, start by keeping your word to yourself each morning. If you want better relationships, practice listening before reacting. If you want stronger health, maintain a habit of moving daily, even for 10 minutes. No one succeeds by doing something grand in one day. They succeed by doing small things long enough. Let me leave you with one final image. Picture yourself building a tower. Each brick is a habit. If you only build when you feel inspired, your tower will be crooked. But if you lay one brick each day, slowly but surely, you will have a structure, not to show off to anyone, but to stand upon and see further, clearer, deeper into the life you want to live. Have you ever wondered what makes someone keep moving forward, even when they feel nothing, no joy, no excitement, no cheering crowd, just another day beginning and a decision to be made again? I have met many talented people who shone brightly like lightning in the night, but that light faded because they could not find inspiration again. And I have also met ordinary people with one extraordinary trait. They do not live by inspiration. They live by choice. And they repeat that choice every day. You cannot control inspiration, but you can control your actions. You cannot force yourself to always feel on fire, but you can force yourself to take one small step in the right direction. No one expects you to feel ready to write a chapter, run a lap, or make an important call, but you can place your hand on the desk, open the page, step outside, or dial the number. Action does not require excitement. It only requires a choice. Once on stage, someone asked me, Jim, how do I get inspiration back? I said, do not wait for inspiration. Make inspiration chase you, because inspiration is not the starting fuel. It is the reward for those who dare to act even when they see no light. And then, as you do the right thing day after day, the light returns. But this time, it comes from within. Picture a farmer waking up in the cold of early spring. The sky is still dark. His hands and feet are numb. But he goes to the field, not because he is thrilled, but because he knows if he does not plant today, there will be no harvest. The cold is not an excuse. Tiredness is not an excuse. Even boredom is not an excuse. There is only one thing: responsibility for what he started. You can apply this to work, health, relationships. When you choose to persist without needing emotions to prop you up, you build a solid foundation for your life. Because emotions are passers-by. They visit today, leave tomorrow. But choices are the master of the house. And you decide who stays. In those moments without inspiration, the steps you take matter most, because anyone can act when they are fired up. But only someone with inner strength acts when their heart is quiet. That is where you become reliable, not just to others, but to yourself. I have had days when I flew to 3 cities in a week, spoke to thousands, then returned to a quiet hotel room, wondering, do I have the strength to keep going tomorrow? And do you know what I did? I took off my coat, sat at the desk, opened my notebook, and wrote the plan for the next day, not because I was always motivated, but because I chose, as long as I am alive, I will keep moving. We are not defined by the emotions we feel. We are defined by what we choose to do despite those emotions. And a solid life is not built on 100 moments of inspiration, but on 1,000 right choices made on ordinary days. So, if you are tired, choose to rest, but do not leave the race. If you are sad, let yourself feel, but do not forget, the right action still needs doing. If you doubt, choose one small, manageable thing and do it. Then another, then one more step, because each step, however small, is you saying to yourself, I am not controlled by emotions. I am guided by action. And the most beautiful thing is, when you keep choosing the right thing long enough, inspiration returns. But it does not come as a fleeting breeze. It comes as a loyal friend who will not leave you because you have proven you are worthy of it. Picture a specific moment, not a glorious one, but an ordinary morning. You wake up, no background music, no stage lights, no applause. Just you, eyes still stinging, mind still heavy, and the day's tasks waiting. You stand at a crossroads, stay in bed 15 minutes longer with the soft pillow, or step onto the cold floor, empty. But the first step of a meaningful day, and you choose the latter, no one sees, no one knows. But that is when you become someone, because you do not need inspiration to live right. You need commitment. And that commitment, repeated, creates the person you dream of being. I have witnessed people the world ignored, yet they lived with a quiet discipline that earned my respect. A single mother waking at 5 to cook, clean, work, and study at night. No one inspired her. No one cheered, but she kept going because she chose. I have seen unremarkable men working simple jobs, yet setting aside 30 minutes daily to read, reflect, write a few lines, not to boast, but to live rightly. And I want you to know, those people, hit, steadfast, repeating, are the backbone of a strong society. You do not need anyone to understand you. You need to understand yourself. When you realize inspiration is a luxury and action is a necessity, you will live differently. You will stop seeking a push and start creating a flow. You will stop waiting for a fire and start kindling it with your bare hands. And each time, you do not just move forward, you grow stronger from within. I recall a young man approaching me after a seminar, ice resolute, saying, I have tried to restart my life many times, but each time I fall when inspiration fades. I asked, so this time, what will you choose when inspiration disappears? He paused, then said, I will keep going. And looking into his eyes, I knew he was bigger than the person he was yesterday. Not because he heard me, but because he chose differently. My friend, each of us must walk a stretch of road without light, a road where no one walks beside you, no one guides, no one sparks a flame. That is where your only companion is, your will. And if you stay steadfast, you will see. That road is where you grow. Because strength does not come from moments of inspiration. It comes from the times you keep going, even when you feel nothing. If you are in a phase without inspiration, know this, you are not alone. I have been there many times, and I walk through it by choosing, keep going. Simple words, but the most important ones in my life, because each time I said them, I defeated procrastination. Each time, I made friends with the future. Each time, I proved to myself, I do not need inspiration to live right. I need faith and a decision. And one day, you will look back and see those lightless roads made you the strongest version of yourself. You see, motivation may be a great start, but it is not why you will finish the journey. You might hear an inspiring talk, shed tears over what you heard, clench your fists, and say, I will change my life. But the next morning, if you do not change your actions, the only thing you are changing is yesterday's emotion. I once said, and I will say again, inspiration may open the door, but only habits keep you inside. Inspiration is like a gust of wind, sudden, powerful, stirring everything, but then it passes. Habits, they are the foundation, the solid ground beneath your feet. They do not make you cry or give you chills, but they keep you standing when no one is around. When the stage lights go out, you might get swept up in the energy of a seminar, feeling you could change the world. But the real question is, when you go home, when the music fades, when no one cheers, will you still wake early, read, exercise, plan, act? If the answer is yes, you are building a life with habits, not inspiration. Let me tell you about a man I knew. He was not remarkable, not the funniest, not especially skilled, but every morning at 5, he was at his desk every day before leaving. He wrote 3 things to do tomorrow. Every week, he spent an hour reflecting on his life and goals. No one knew his name at first, but 5 years later, he was in every strategy meeting. 10 years later, he ran a company, not because he was a genius, but because he was consistent. He was living proof of the truth. The successful person is not the one who does the most in one day, but the one who does the right thing every day. Picture an orange tree. When it bears fruit, everyone notices. They praise, they marvel. But during winter, when it is just bare branches and dry leaves, no one cares. Yet in that winter, its roots die deeper, drawing water, preparing for the next season. Habits are what you do in the winter of your life, when no one watches, and those winters create your harvest. My friend, I did not write my first book in a burst of excitement. I did not build my first business because I woke one day burning with inspiration. No, I started with a blank page and a habit, writing a few lines each day, not to have something to show off, but to have something to remember. Each line was a promise to myself. I am serious about this journey. And over time, the habits became who I am. When you repeat something long enough, what you do becomes who you are. I have seen people quit when inspiration fades. They start a diet because of an inspiring photo. They exercise for a week because of a great quote. They write a business plan, then abandon it when no one checks in. Why? Because they live by inspiration. And inspiration, I will be honest, is an unfaithful lover. It comes, it goes, it leaves a taste. But if you want a lasting marriage with success, you must wed habits. And if you ask, how do I build habits when I have no motivation? I will say, do not wait for motivation. Set the clock. Do not wait for inspiration. Make a plan. Schedule a meeting with yourself. Do things so small you cannot make excuses to skip them. Start by drinking a glass of water upon waking. Walk 10 minutes after dinner. Write one line of thought before bed. And when you do the small things, your brain believes you can do the big ones. Habits do not need to be grand. They need to be steady. 1 year. I decided to read 100 books. Instead of announcing it loudly, I set a goal, read 10 pages a day. Some days I was tired, did not want to do anything, but because I committed to myself, I read. Sometimes on a plane, sometimes in a car, sometimes before bed. By year's end, I had read over 120 books, not because I was extraordinary, but because I had a reliable habit. So today, I do not ask, how are you feeling? I ask, what have you done despite how you feel? Because that is where you are shaped, in the silence, in the repetition, in the commitment no one sees. And if you still need inspiration, remember this: the truest inspiration does not come from outside. It comes from looking back on a day and saying, today, I did what I said I would. That feeling surpasses any video, quote, or speech, because it is living proof. You can trust yourself. Freedom does not come from doing whatever you want. True freedom comes when you can control yourself, and you cannot control yourself without discipline. This is one of the deepest paradoxes I have learned. The more disciplined you are, the freer you become. It sounds contradictory, because when you think of discipline, you think of limits. You think of saying no, holding back, following something strict. But consider this: a person who eats without discipline stays up late, skips meals, indulges every craving. They are not free. They are bound by fleeting feelings, sugar, désir, and one day their body, once a tool for living and working, becomes a prison of illness. But the disciplined person eats on time, moves regularly, rests properly. They have the energy to do what they want, go where they want, build a career, love their family. They do not say, I cannot to important things, because they are ready. They are not controlled by emotions or bad habits. They choose response over reaction, and that is freedom. A person without financial discipline spends on impulse. They buy what they want, whether needed or not. And at month's end or life's end, they have nothing. Everything slips through their fingers like sand. But the disciplined person, they plan, they save, they invest, they delay gratification for a bigger harvest. And when the time comes, they have choices, not because they got lucky, but because they sowed. I always return to the farmer. He cannot wait for inspiration to plant seeds. He does not say, I am not in the mood to farm today. No. Herises goes to the field, plows, waters, fertilizes every day, rain or shine. because he knows no sowing, nor reaping, if he does not tend his land with discipline, come harvest, the field will be empty. Your life is the same. If you want financial freedom, be disciplined with every dollar. If you want health freedom, be disciplined with every meal. If you want creative freedom, be disciplined with every focused hour. Discipline is the price you pay today to buy freedom for tomorrow. I once met a man who worked hard but always complained he was stuck. I asked, "Do you have 1 free hour each day?" He said, "Yes." I asked, "Have you used that hour to learn a new skill, plan, or improve anything?" He was silent. I said, "Then you are not stuck by circumstance. You are stuck by lack of discipline." What separates the successful from the ordinary? Not intelligence, not luck, but the ability to do what is needed, even when they do not feel like it. The ordinary wait for the right emotion. The successful build the right habits. Remember this, you cannot build a life you are proud of with easy choices. What is easy is rarely valuable. What is valuable is rarely easy. You must choose. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Picture a pianist. She practices scales, chords every day with no one clapping, but that repeated discipline over time creates the ability to perform freely on stage. The beautiful improvisation does not come from luck. It comes from rigor. The freedom of expression is born from the constraint of practice. And so it is with your life. Want freedom to live your values? Start by keeping the smallest promise to yourself. Want freedom to say no to what does not fit? Build discipline to be strong enough to walk away. Freedom is not escaping structure. It is choosing the right structure and living fully within it. I know you are tired. I know you sometimes want to give up. But hear me, discipline is not a prison, it is a bridge. And when you walk far enough on that bridge, you reach a place where you no longer have to try because it has become you. I recall a story I share with those struggling to stay disciplined. It is about 2 men living on the same small street. Each morning, one woke at 6, made coffee, opened a notebook, and wrote 3 important tasks for the day. The other slept till noon, woke in a sour mood, aimless, letting the day drift in laziness. What happened? In the first year, no one saw much difference. By the second year, the first man's income grew. By the 5th, he had a home, a car, savings, and most importantly, confidence. The other, still struggling with bills, blaming the economy, living in constant helplessness. That is discipline, not something you do once for instant results. It is like water dripping steadily on stone. 1 day, 2 days, no change, but year after year. The stone wears down. So if you doubt, if you feel your daily actions mean nothing, remember, you are wearing down the stone, and the freedom you crave lies beyond it. Once, a young person asked, "Jim, how can I be disciplined when no one pushes me, no one checks?" I smiled and said, "That is exactly why you need discipline. If you only act when forced, you are a prisoner of circumstance. But if you choose to act without anyone prompting, you become the architect of your own life." Who do I respect most? Not the richest, not the most famous, but the person who does the right thing when no one watches, who wakes on time, writes in their journal, learns, acts not to boast, but because they respect themselves. That is inner discipline. That is true strength. And that strength is the deepest freedom. Look at the world around you. Everything valuable has structure, order. A beautiful garden does not grow on its own. A piano does not tune itself. A good poem does not appear from nowhere. So why think a beautiful life can come without training, organization, discipline? I often tell those starting their journey of change, do not try to change the world in one night. Start by making your bed in the morning, because when you begin the day with one intentional act, however small, you signal to your brain that you are in charge, and the person in charge is the one who is free. One day, you will look back and see those times you resisted procrastination, those days you did not skip your workout, those hours you studied. While others rested, those created the difference. No, honest soul you sow, but all will see you reap. And then they will call you lucky. But you and I know it was discipline. My friend, I do not say this to make you feel guilty for moments of weakness. We all have them. I have had days I did not want to get out of bed. We'll hear another lecture, write another line, but I learned what makes a person is not the emotions they feel, but the actions they choose despite those emotions. So from today, try this. Choose one thing you know is good, but keep avoiding. Maybe waking early, exercising, reading, saving, or sitting quietly for 10 minutes each morning. Do it every day for 3 weeks. You do not need to love it. Just do it. And you will see what you thought was hard was just unfamiliar. And when it becomes familiar, it becomes you. Finally, let me leave you with an image. Picture yourself rowing a boat on a calm lake. If you let the current take you, you will drift anywhere the water wants. But if you take the oars, row steadily, keep your course, you will reach your destination. Discipline is those oars. Not glamorous, not loud, but the only thing that keeps you on your journey when nothing else does. There is something I learned early. In my first years in sales as a young man with big dreams and empty pockets, life does not change just because you wish it were easier. Life does not hear complaints. It does not answer blame. It only responds to growth. And that is why I tell you with all sincerity, do not wish life were easier. Wish you were better. I once wished my boss were kinder. I wished my clients were less demanding. I wished the market were smoother, the opportunities clearer. But then I discovered something that changed my life forever. If I become better, everything becomes easier. And that is a law that never fails. You see, when you improve your skills, the work stays the same, but you handle it with ease. When you understand human nature, relationships stay the same, but you communicate better. When you master your emotions, the world remains chaotic, but you are not swept away. Everything becomes easier not because it changes, but because you change. Someone told me, Jim, I do not have time. And I replied, no one has more time than you. We all have 24 hours a day. The difference is not in time, but in how you manage it. The difference is not in circumstances, but in how you face them. That is why I do not talk about demanding the world to change. I talk about you changing. That is the only thing you control. I often use the farmer when the soil is dry. He does not pray for a new season. He waters it. When weeds grow, he does not curse nature. He pulls them. When pests attack, he does not write complaints to God. He protects his crop. That is a grown person. That is someone who knows every problem is a chance to grow stronger. And so it is with you. If you face trouble at work, it is not a curse. It is an invitation to get better. If you are rejected, it is not failure. It is a chance to learn persuasion. If you are misunderstood, it is not the end. It is the start of learning to express yourself. You can wish everything were easier, but you will wait forever because life is not designed to be convenient. It is designed to refine, and if you understand that, you will wish for something else. I wish I were more patient. I wish I were calmer. I wish I acted faster. I wish I learned better. Those are wishes worth having. And when you wish like that, you are closer to real change. I remember the day I stood before an audience. My first time speaking to a group, I trembled. I stammered. I forgot my opening line. And after that talk, I went home with two feelings: disappointment and determination. Not because I wished the audience were kinder, but because I knew if I practiced enough, prepared enough, observed enough, I would get better, and I did. The second time was better than the first, the 10th better than the second, the 1000th. I became Jim Rohn. You cannot control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. And if you know how to adjust the sails, no matter which way the wind blows, you can reach your destination. That is my philosophy of life. And I want you to have it, because when you live by that philosophy, you are no longer a victim. You are the captain of your own ship. Once, I wrote a sentence and taped it to my bedroom wall. It read, "I will get better no matter what happens." And every morning, before leaving the house, I read it because I knew out there the world would not wait for me to be ready. It would test me. And if I was not prepared, I would fall. But if I was good enough, I would stand. Try writing that sentence. Tape it where you can see it daily. And when a tough day comes, remember, it is not a sign to stop. It is a chance to move forward. Each time you say, "I will get better," you lay a brick for your house of freedom. And let me say this one last time. If you want a better life, do not wait for circumstances to change. Become the person worthy of the life you want. Do not wish things were easier. Wish you were better, and then you will see things do start to get easier. Not because they changed, but because you did. I once thought change began with goals. Then I learned it began with action. But after years traveling the country, sharing with thousands, I realized lasting transformation begins with self-respect. You will not change if you do not believe you deserve a better life. You will not strive if you do not think you are worth the effort. And you will not sustain progress if, deep down, you still look down on yourself. That is the clearest truth I have seen. And sadly, it is what many forget. I sat beside a man who earned more money than I ever dreamed of. But he drank every night, snapped at his children, and said, "I do not deserve happiness." I sat with a woman of natural talent, yet she refused opportunities because a childhood voice echoed, "You will never amount to anything." You see, it is not ability or circumstance, but self-respect or its absence that turns the wheel of a person's fate. Picture yourself as a plot of land. If you believe you are a barren field, you will let weeds grow. You will let trash pile up. You will not fertilize the plant or care for it. But if you believe you are a precious plot, you will plow, sow, protect it from anything that makes it barren. Self-respect is the quiet belief that you are land worth tending. One day, I asked a student, "Why did you not finish the study plan we made?" She said, "I do not feel good enough. I do not think it is for me." I told her to sit down, and I said to her what I want to say to you now. Start where you stand, but never let your current state define your worth forever. You are not your mistakes. You are not others' words about you. You are what you are, willing to rise and become Self-respect does not come from others' approval. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. When you say you will wake at 6 and you do, when you vow to avoid that food and you succeed, when you plan to study for 30 minutes and you follow through, those small acts are like drops of water nourishing the soil within you. And day by day, you begin to believe, I am reliable, I am worthy of results. I met an old man in Georgia. He had survived many losses, yet he was not bitter. I asked, what is the secret? Sir, he replied without hesitation, I keep my heart clean. I do not let myself belittle myself, because when I do, I start hurting those around me without knowing. That stayed with me for years, because it is true. When you do not respect yourself, you cannot truly love others. Love begins with knowing you are worthy of love. My friend, you cannot force change by scolding yourself. No one grows under their own shouting. You need a different voice, a gentle but firm one that says, I am not perfect, but I am important enough to try. When you have that voice, your true journey begins. Self-respect is not arrogance. It does not shout, I am better than you. It whispers, I will not abandon myself. It does not deny mistakes. It says, I was wrong, and I will fix it. It does not demand others bow. It reminds you to lift your head. That is self-respect. And when you have it, you do not need others' approval to know your worth. You can start today, right now, by writing one small promise. Keep it. Then tomorrow, write another. Keep that too. Each day, a little more. Then one day, you look back and see a different person. Resilient, calm, in control. Someone who can say, I am not perfect, but I am worth striving for. And from that place, all transformation begins. I once believed the destination was the reward, that all the effort, hardship, sweat, tears were the price for that day, the day of success, of abundance, of fulfillment. But after years traveling, standing on grand stages, shaking hands with the most successful, I found something humbling. The destination is not the reward. The journey is. I have seen people reach the highest peaks and stand there empty. Not because the peak was not beautiful, but because they forgot the wonders that happened along the way. The night they slept shivering in a cold forest, the morning they rose early to see the sun light the valley, the time they nearly quit but kept going because of a kind word. Those moments are what hold value. The peak is just a marker. The journey is what makes you. Look at a gardener. He may dream of a garden full of flowers, but what keeps him devoted is each early morning watering, bending to trim a wilted branch, seeing the first bud. The garden does not become real in one day. It is real every day when he chooses to stay with the soil, the sweat, the faith. And so it is with you, with me, with anyone on life's journey. I recall an old friend who shod horses. I asked, do you not tire of doing the same thing every day? He smiled, eyes gleaming with pride. You see the horseshoe? I see my hands improving daily. I see the fire flare at the right moment. I hear the metal change. Each day, I learn something, and that is enough joy. You see, he did not need to be elsewhere to feel alive. He was there in each strike, each breath, each experience, and that was happiness. If you focus only on the destination, you will miss 1,000 miracles happening around you. You will not hear the birds sing at dawn. You will not see sunlight through the trees. You will not know a handshake, a thank you, a failure, all shaping who you are. And strangely, when you begin to love the journey, you no longer need the destination because you have arrived here in each step. You ask, Jim, how do I know I am on the right path? I ask back, are you growing each day? Are you kinder to others? Are you keeping your word to yourself? If so, you are on the right path. The destination can wait. Do not let it distract you from the precious things happening now. I sat on an old wooden chair at a remote farm. An elderly woman told me about her life. She had little money. No fame, no de gris. But she said, I have a beautiful life because I live each day as if it is my life. And then I understood living is not preparing to live. It is living today, now. If you are on a tough journey, do not stress too much. Breathe. Look back at what you have walked through. Feel your feet standing. Hear your heart beat. That is the sound of someone truly living. And you do not need to reach the destination to know you are doing right. You just need to choose the right way to go. Because in the end, you will not recall exactly how far you went, but you will remember who you became on that road. My friend, let me tell you plainly, as a true friend would, in this life, you will pay a price for something. No one is exempt. There is no free path. No dream comes without a cost. No bright future can be reached without a bill. And that bill comes in two forms: the price of discipline or the price of regret. Discipline is heavy. I will not deny it. It can frustrate you. It demands you wake early when you want to sleep. It makes you say no when others tempt you. It requires repeating small tasks no one praises. But do you know what is heavier than discipline? Regret. Regret is so heavy it can crush you not just for a day, but for a lifetime. I spoke with an elderly man sitting quietly, looking out a nursing home window. When I asked what he regretted most, he did not speak of poverty, illness, or failure. He said, I wish I had tried harder. I wish I had told my child, I love you. I wish I had written that book. But I kept waiting. He was not pained by what he did. He was pained by what he did not do. Discipline is the price you pay to walk the right path, step by step. Regret is the price you pay when you realize you missed the whole journey. You cannot have good health without discipline in eating, exercising. You cannot keep a beautiful relationship without discipline in listening, forgiving, nurturing. You cannot build wealth without discipline in spending and investing, and you cannot create a meaningful life without discipline in thought, word, action every day. I liken discipline to an old, loyal friend. It is not glamorous, does not bring instant feelings, but it is always there urging you to refine yourself, stay upright, not give in to indulgence, and slowly, through discipline, you build what others only dream of. Freedom. True freedom does not come from doing whatever you want. It comes when you have enough discipline to do what is right, even when you do not want to. Picture a man rowing a boat on a river. If he does not row, the current takes him not where he wants, but where the water wants. Life is the same. If you do not use discipline to steer circumstances, emotions, others' words will push you aimlessly. And one day, you look back and ask, how did I end up here? But it is too late. Discipline does not need perfection. It just needs you to start one action a day, one promise kept, one small task done. Each time you choose to do what you said, you build a wall brick by brick, mortar by mortar. Each time you overcome laziness or delay, you construct a house called character. And when life storms come, you have shelter. That is discipline's reward. I do not say living with discipline is easy. I say it is worth it, because nothing is worse than reaching life's end and realizing, I knew, but I did not act. You cannot control every event in life, but you can control your actions today. Start with one small choice. Make your bed. Read 10 pages. Skip the harmful food. Call a loved one. Small. But each act declares, I choose discipline. I choose life. You will pay a price that is certain, but you get to choose which price you pay. I hope you choose discipline, because regret, though paid later, always costs more.